Good morning. On a Taco Tuesday, I lift my big old styrofoam cup iced tea to you. Welcome in. Woo! Woo! Headphones would be a good idea. Woo, 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 woo. It's a little loud. All right. One person in here. Two people in here. Welcome in, first two people. Good morning. Sam Tobias. First that we see. What is up? Sam Tobias, the pride of HEB. A credit to the grocery industry and to the American way of life. Woo! Woo! Sam Tobias reminds us it is hashtag Taco Tuesday. It is your civic responsibility and due diligence to consume as many tacos as possible today. I got an early start on Taco Tuesday yesterday at the Texas Fight Tour. They served tacos. Had a couple. I had a brisket taco and a kind of a chicken taco. Let's see. Tracy Bogert, dude, that is chilling. I was at a pool on Saturday. I think this was Saturday. Steve Duraco was with me, and there's these two women next to us. And all of a sudden they start talking to him, and one goes, man, I'm so glad COVID's over. And I look at Steve, and the other one goes, oh, yeah, COVID's definitely. The other woman goes, oh, yeah, COVID's definitely over. I was like, wow. Where do you get your information? Foamfoot 420, what is up? I watched Winning Time last night. It is amazing. Luisa Alanis is in here, who we hung out with yesterday. In fact, Luisa, there it is. Luisa Alanis with me and the original Rock, Steve Duraco. Ah, yes, Jeremy. Jeremy's telling me to mute myself on the alternate stream. I can do that. Done. Woo. Woo. Oh, yeah, we're going to have to tell Shannon, Luisa, that Shannon's words of wisdom and advice got Luisa into the event. She dropped Shannon's name to athletic director Chris Del Conte, and he said, oh, come on in. Come on in. So, Foamfoot 420, we will talk Winning Time, but I gotta, anyway, here we come. Well, I got a question on how we approach it. Do we worry about spoiler alerts on Winning Time for people who don't know how the 1980 NBA championship actually ended? Even though you can Google it, does that spoil it for you? All right. Let's see. I got to mute occasionally for our evil Facebook overlords. Not today, Zuckerberg! It is a Taco Tuesday. There is all kinds of things going on in the world of sports, including the fact that COVID rears its ugly head in the NBA playoffs. But I would imagine the Golden State Warriors are probably saying no harm, no foul, as their head coach, Steve Kerr, diagnosed with the coronavirus, COVID-19, not long before the game last night between the Golden State Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies. Of course, the Grizzlies were without Ja Morant. A lot of people expected a lopsided game, even though That game was even though the Warriors were without Steve Kerr and Mike Brown, who is headed to Sacramento as their coach next season, but fulfilling his obligation and the rest of his time with the Golden State Warriors. Big Mike Brown, part of the Greg Popovich coaching tree, I might add, leads the Warriors as coach last night, and it was a lot closer than people expected. The Warriors defeat the Memphis Grizzlies, who did not have Ja Morant. Warriors 101, Grizzlies 98. Steph Curry, 32 points, 8 assists. He had 5 rebounds. We'll talk NBA playoffs. Celtics win at Milwaukee last night, 116-108 to tie that series at 2-2. Oh, by the way, the Warriors go up 3-1 in their series. So we'll talk NBA playoffs. We'll talk National Football League, which we should, as God intended. There is nothing like NFL football. There's nothing like college football, as last night I went to the Texas Fight Tour at the Rustic in the beautiful Rim and heard the words and wisdom of Texas Athletic Director Chris Del Conte, head football coach Steve Sarkisian, women's basketball coach Vic Schaefer, who was very impressive, is a great, great speaker. He rocked the place. And volleyball coach Jarrett Elliott, and Luisa Alanis, Shannon Salty Sweeney, as we throw to Shannon on the Chris Duel show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. You've got so much pull and so much Longhorn wisdom. One of the first people I see as we walk in to the Texas Fight Tour is our regular listener and viewer and Longhorn mega partisan, Luisa Alanis. She is in there, and it was sold out as of yesterday morning. And Shannon, you said, "Hey man, just you tweet over to Chris Del Conte and you say you're a personal friend of Shannon Salty Sweeney." I believe that's what you said, Shannon. And apparently what you said worked. It all worked for her. Way to go.
Well, I didn't mean for my name to be dropped necessarily, because I don't think I have pull at all. But Chris Del Conte is great at giving the fans what they want. So I'm happy for her that she got in. That makes me feel special today. And you, sir, kudos to you for all of the social posts. I was following along last night as you were posting about your time spent with Coach Sark and company. Now, Chris Beard was on the original list, correct? And yeah. So I was like patiently waiting to see the bearded one, and didn't show up. Did they say why? Was he taken off of the roster last minute? What happened?
No, nobody said why, and it's a good question. And like you, I mean, the two guys I really wanted to see were Sark, Steve Sarkisian, and Chris Beard, the men's basketball coach. And I don't know why Chris Beard was there. Maybe some of our Longhorn friends. I mean, the place was packed. If there's any doubt that the Texas Longhorns have a huge contingent of Texas X's and fans and followers and alums and students, I mean, it was jammed. The line to get into, we almost left. I went with my friend, the Original Rock, and the line was way out the building and down the street. The line looked like it was a quarter of a mile long. And we got there just before 6:00 when the gates opened, and we said, all right. And I said to Steve, I said, all right, I'm not into lines. Up to you. I'm happy to take a photo of all of these fans in front of the Rustic in the Rim. And I'll just say, hashtag Texas Fight Tour, hook 'em. We were here. And then my friend Steve goes, well, let's see what happens with the line. The line eventually started to move, and we obviously we hung out, and we're glad we did. It was as I mentioned, Shannon, I went to one of these a few years ago at Sunset Station near the Alamo Dome. Yes. And interestingly, that one, Tom Herman, who was then head football coach, did not show. Luisa has since told me he had another speaking engagement in San Antonio that night. So, last time I went, I expected to see Tom Herman. He wasn't there. Last night I went, I expected to see Chris Beard. He wasn't there. But as you mentioned yesterday, Shannon, the Longhorns do a lot of these across the state of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe, Chris Beard has a life to lead, and maybe he had a scheduling conflict. So I'm, if Beard and Sark were not there, I might be a little disgruntled this morning, but Sark was outstanding as expected.
Well, and you mentioned the line and how you almost left. So I'm curious now. You paid $30 for a ticket. You said that ticket included a buffet, some swag, and 2 drink tickets. So did you make good on your package there once you did get inside?
Oh, my first question once we got inside was, where's Bevo? And then where's the beer? So no, we got right into the beer line. Again, that was a long line, and I you got 2 drink tickets. So I said, I'm not getting in line for beer again. Give me 2 beers now, please, and thank you. So I got my 2 beers, and then we went and great food. There were tacos. There were brisket tacos. I got beef brisket. I got a chicken taco. They had cool like guacamole salad. They had like Mexican cornbread, and it was. I mean, the food was delicious. I had never been to the Rustic. Apparently, I've led a very sheltered life because other people go, oh yeah, the Rustic's a big, and apparently the stage area where they did the event for the Texas Fight Tour, it's indoor, outdoor, and apparently when it's not 100 degrees outside, they open these big like glass garage door windows that go into the restaurant. And apparently when live music is played there on a comfortable night, temperature wise, apparently the place just absolutely rocks. So I'm going to have to go there and see some music at some point. But and maybe we'll even play, because I shot a lot of video of what Coach Sark had to say. And man, Shannon, I mean, one of my biggest takeaways was, and I like this in a coach, he said one of our biggest problems last year was 1 year ago, I did not connect the players and the coaches together the way that I should have. He described where the coaches' offices are and were a year ago, where the players were and where their locker rooms were, and how, the players would come to the coaches' offices, but, there was not as much of a connection as there should have been. And he said, that's on me. That's my fault. And here's what I've done. And he mentions now that he has set it up so the coaches and the players are together a lot every day. He says, I have breakfast with the players every single morning. He is, then he walked us through, each position. The quarterbacks, he talked about the quarterback room back when he was at USC with Carson Palmer and Matt Leinart and Matt Castle all in the same quarterbacks room. He talked about the Alabama quarterbacks room where all 3 of those guys are now quarterbacks in the NFL. And he compared those 3 quarterbacks with the current 3 Texas quarterbacks. And he didn't say specifically, but I think the message was these guys are comparable to these amazing quarterback rooms that I've been in. Then, obviously talked about Bijan Robinson and how great the running backs are, the wide receivers, the tight ends, but the offensive line, and Shannon, you've talked about this and this, he said of the top 7 recruits in the state of Texas on the offensive line, he said Texas got 6 of the top 7, and the only reason they didn't get 7 of the top 7 is 2 of these guys were best friends and teammates and played tackle out of Houston, and they had a pact. We're not going to compete against each other. We're going to go to separate football programs so that we can each star at the tackle position. He said if it wasn't for that, we would have had 7 out of 7. So very impressive talk and a Q&A with Coach Sark. And I think if you're a Longhorn fan, and even if you weren't, I think you walked out of there very optimistic, if not confident, about what this Longhorn football team is going to do this coming season.
Yeah, and I think one thing as a fan, we can appreciate Sark's openness and willingness to take a little bit of the blame. I think that's something Tom Herman lacked completely during his time here. And I know, I believe I saw that Sark mentioned when you talked about the connectivity with the players and the staff, that the construction with the end zone, going on, had the players' locker room on the other side. They were using the visitors' locker room. So just, I mean, physical distance makes it hard to get things done. And so naturally, you know, for him to even take blame for that when it's something that was out of his control. But luckily now that that's all done and settled, it's all beautiful, and, you know, it's being used consistently. That's something that should just naturally go a long way, along with all the other efforts that he's making at this moment.
And you made the comparison to Tom Herman, and I agree with you. Tom Herman, and God love him, and I wish him the best, but he was really arrogant, and he really thought his new you know what didn't smell. And Coach, I mean, humility goes a long way, and I think, you know, and obviously, I mean, you just listen to Sark. He's highly confident. He's a quarterback whisperer. He's an offensive mind. He's a very outstanding head football coach. I think in life and in this coaching profession, you've got to be able to evaluate yourself. I think being humble helps you. I think being able to accept criticism and being able to analyze and see what your flaws were last season so that you can correct them next season and subsequent seasons go a long way. And I wonder, and I'm just speculating, and I don't know, as we all know, Coach Sark fought some personal demons. He has overcome them. And typically in those programs, and often a 12-step program, part of it is accountability and a personal inventory and humility, and not arrogance and not bluster. And I really think whatever hell Coach Sark had to go through personally to get to the other side and where he is right now, I think it's made him a better man, and I think it ultimately makes him a better football coach.
Yeah, definitely agree. And, you know, like you said, you know, best of luck to Tom Herman, but really happy with what we have and who we have as a person, as a head coach. Because as you mentioned, I mean, that when his name was floating around as a potential candidate, he was officially selected, there were a lot of naysayers who immediately jumped on him for what he went through in his past personal life and how that ultimately affected some of his tenures elsewhere. But so far, so good. And hopefully, you know, you mentioned the recruits and the signees, and, you know, that was one thing Herman did well. He was able to get a lot of great guys here. He missed some big ones. You know, Quinn Ewers not signing the first time around was a huge deal. But as we know now, a lot of guys who signed in those classes ended up hitting the transfer portal. So if Sark can continue to not only sign great guys to the team, but keep them for as long as they're willing to stay before they go to the NFL rather than go to another school, that, you know, that's signs of improvement in and of itself.
Absolutely. We'll talk a little bit more about that. We might even, we'll probably play a little bit of Coach Sark, his comments yesterday in San Antonio at the Texas Fight Tour. Got to check in with our Soundscape stylist, Jeremy Kolok. Jeremy, a huge Memphis Grizzlies fan. He's a huge Spurs fan as well, but he grew up and spent a lot of time in Memphis. Jeremy, what a game that was last night. First thing we hear early in the evening, Steve Kerr, the head coach of the Golden State Warriors, tests positive for the coronavirus, so he's out. Mike Brown, the interim coach, and we know he's going to Sacramento to be the head coach next year. Nonetheless, all the players that we expected to be there for the Warriors were there, so a lot of people expected a blowout, but the Grizzlies were hanging tough. I think Curry shot like 8 free throws in the final 45 or 57 seconds. Your impressions of the Grizzlies' tough 101-98 loss to the Warriors last night?
It was a fun basketball game to watch, but I think this really talented and fun to watch young Grizzlies team just has run into a team that is just better than them, and just has one particular player who is better than everybody they have on the roster. Because last night, and I said this to y'all after game one, and I was like, that was the chance. That was the big chance. Well, last night was another big chance because the Warriors didn't shoot well from the three-point line. It took Steph Curry a while to get going, and the Grizzlies were leading for most of that game, obviously, without Ja Morant. And like you mentioned, Chris, the Warriors didn't have their head coach, Steve Kerr, on the sideline. And then comes Steph Curry in that fourth quarter. And it's just it is what it is. He is greatness. And as a basketball fan, it's still fun to watch, but it's like I said, I think I told you this after game one. The Warriors and the Suns are on a collision course, and I am not blind to that.
Yeah, and you talk about Steph Curry and how he turned it on in that fourth quarter. It's and granted, this could have been 2-2 if the Grizzlies had held on to that victory last night, held on to that lead. But man, if the Warriors can play like the Warriors, and given their championship pedigree, so many of those guys, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Steve Kerr, knowing what it takes to win a championship multiple times, even against the Suns, I don't know if anybody can stop the Golden State Warriors. All right, we got so much to cover all morning long. We'll go in depth into the NBA playoffs. We'll talk National Football League. We're just a couple of days away from the NFL schedules officially dropping. That'll be a Thursday night. We got some Tom Brady news. Michelle Beadle, San Antonio's own Michelle Beadle, with a startling and I would say chilling and for me disappointing allegation about LeBron James. I often say, LeBron James may be a diva, but he's, never been in trouble with the law. He's a good dad. He puts kids through college. Troubling news about LeBron James if what Michelle Beadle alleges is true. We will get into that. Major League Baseball, Astros take on Carlos Correa later on today and tonight, and a chance for the Astros to win 8 in a row. The Dodgers lost. Dodgers had a 6-game win streak. Astros 7-game win streak already was the longest winning streak in Major League Baseball, but now they're far and away the longest winning streak in Major League Baseball. We'll see if they can keep a good thing going. Coming up, the high five play of the day, Shannon's Salty Shakedown, sports history, sports birthdays, and more coming up in the 7:00 hour. Hit us up on the talkback feature on the free iHeartRadio app, or dial us up at any time, 800-707-9760. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. He's Jeremy Kolok. We are with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Woo! Woo! All right. Yeah, foam foot. I saw Shannon kind of agreeing with that. My coffee is, I forgot to bring it in from the car in my big old coffee Strato tanker. I think I'm going to make a run for it and go get it, because I need coffee. Mike Taylor is in town. And for the next few moments, he'll be sitting in. Thank you, Mike Taylor. There you go. He's doing his show at various locations. So you can become one with Mike Taylor. All right, I should be back in 90 seconds to 2 minutes. I'll be right back.
From the moment you open the bag, through the low and slow grilling, to the very last bite of food, new Kingsford Signature Flavors hardwood pellets tantalize your senses. Kingsford Signature Flavors are made with 100% natural hardwood and 100% real spices to add a whole new rich, full-bodied flavor and aroma to your cookout. New Kingsford Signature Flavors hardwood pellets. Flavor you can see, smell, and taste. Kingsford.com.
Thank you, Mike Taylor. Very kind of him to sit in for those few moments. I do have my huge coffee strato tanker, Cody, HEB brand Cody, because I work in radio and I can't afford Yeti. Woo! Woo! Buenos dias, Jason Paniagua. What is up? Woo! Woo!
Since I'm all about being a good neighbor, I want to let you know that some other car insurance companies are increasing their rates in your state. So it's a good time to check your latest bill. But don't worry, your bill's gone up and your budget's busted. Switch to State Farm for surprisingly great rates. Problem solved. Surprisingly great rates. Like a good neighbor.
All right. I can guzzle some coffee for a few seconds, which is beautiful. Good morning, everybody. Beth Settle, good morning. Welcome in. Now, John Williams says, go, sun, go. He doesn't say go, suns, go. So I'm assuming you're talking about the sun, the center of our solar system. Yes, I'm a big fan as well. Sam Tobias, good morning. Amber, a.k.a. Foamfoot 420, says winning time will win at least 3 Emmys. God. Best actor, John C. Reilly. Best dramatic series, there's 2. Sally Field, best supporting actress. Luisa Alanis, good morning. Hector Gomez, good morning. Fonzie J. Rodriguez, go LA Dodgers, go LA Kings. Dodgers lost. They still have the best record in baseball, pretty much. Let's see, who else do we have here? Tracy Bogert, Jesse Bratton. Good morning, Jesse. Tracy Bogert says, over the last couple years, I have garnered a whole new respect for Steph Curry and his game. There have not been a lot of players in history who pull up 5 feet behind the three-point line with no one guarding them to shoot a 3. Yeah, he has revolutionized the game, man. Robert Browning, welcome in, Robert. Back in Japan, 30 days until he climbs Mount Fuji. And Robert, I have yet to procure a flag, so I know the clock is running out on that. But either way, we would love to interview you on this radio program before and probably after you do that climb of Mount Fuji. Shohei Ohtani hit a grand slam last night. Dude is amazing. I don't like that he's in the Astros division. Yeah, the Jerry West character, even again last night, he was a madman during that Game 6 in Philadelphia. They're also the Magic Johnson character, the Genie Bus character, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar character. They're so good. Got to see when that Astros game is today/tonight. Let me pull up that schedule. $6:40. Justin Verlander on the mound for the Astros, who so far has a 3-1 record with an ERA of 1.93. Now, interestingly, the Twins have a pitcher tonight, Joe Ryan, also a 3-1 record, but with a better ERA of 1.63. So, very interesting. And they both have identical records at 18-11, the Astros and the Twins. Here we come.
Let's get back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Find Chris and Salty on Twitter at Chris Duel and at Shannon B. Sweeney.
Yes. Dancing with myself. There was no dancing last night at the, well, kind of sort of when the band played. Some people got up and they sort of danced at the Texas Fight Tour that we talked about. We'll grab some audio from Coach Sark a little bit later as well. Jeremy Kolok making the show go. Voice Dude just gave Shannon and my Twitter handles. Don't forget Jeremy Kolok. You can tweet at him at Jeremy Kolok. Thank you, Juice, Mr. O.J. Simpson. And, of course, the radio stations at AM 1300 The Zone and at Ticket 760. By the way, don't forget about the free iHeartRadio app. We are always crystal clear. The sound is amazing on the iHeartRadio app, and most of us have smartphones, so you can take it wherever you go. And they also play on your home devices like the Amazon Echo. All I have to do is say, Alexa, play AM 1300 The Zone, or Alexa, play Ticket 760, and I get it in my house, and it's crystal clear. Now, on your smartphone, we've been talking about it. It's cool. That talkback feature, there's a microphone at the bottom of the screen on the iHeartRadio app. You press the button, you leave us a message, your take, your position, your outrage, your prophecy, whatever's on your mind, you press send, we get it, and it's a beautiful thing. You know, Shannon, we were talking yesterday about, number 21, the horse who won the Kentucky Derby, coming from way, 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 way back to win it. And we said, all right, who are the greatest number 21s of all time? I saw after us, I think he was in for Dan Patrick or something. Doug Gottlieb had a question yesterday. What was the biggest sports upset of all time? Because that clearly that Kentucky Derby was a huge upset. That's a great question as well.
Yeah.
And what immediately pops into my head is Super Bowl III, which Joe Namath led the Jets to the win over the Baltimore Colts, which at the time was such a big deal because nobody thought the AFL could beat the NFL. That would almost be akin to a USFL team beating an NFL team. You just wouldn't expect it. But
yeah.
Any biggest upsets ever pop into your head?
I mean, the first one is kind of that Patriots-Falcons game, and then even USC-Texas, right? Just because the way the story was laid out, that USC, they were destined to be victors once again. But when comparing it to the Super Bowl, it almost doesn't seem fair because, right, it was just two teams that had to make it there out of this field of 20 that's at the Kentucky Derby, and then this is number 21, who isn't, wasn't even part of the race. With that field being so much larger, it feels more like you'd have to compare it to like a tennis tournament or something, or even golf for that matter. But yeah, recent memory, I think the first one that pops in my mind would be Tom Brady coming back. Falcons will never forget that, and people won't let them.
Now you could argue though, and we'll ask Jeremy in a second, and then we'll do the high five play of the day. But you could argue it was Brady, and I mean, if you're talking upset, I mean, comeback, yes, but
right.
Upset, and again, it's an upset because when it's 28-3, you go game over. So yeah, you could certainly argue it as an upset after it was 28-3. But I think just from a sheer upset of before the game began, these two teams. I mean, maybe that time not long ago that a 16 seed beat the number 1 seed in the NCAA men's basketball tournament. For so long, we said, okay, it's going to happen someday, but it never happened. Jeremy Kolok, what pops into your head when you think of the biggest upset ever in sports?
Yeah, I was kind of along the same train of thought with you, Chris, in 2018. If you remember, in the NCAA men's basketball March Madness tournament, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, UMBC, the Retrievers, if you'll remember.
The Retrievers
knocked off the number 1 seed, the University of Virginia. So that was my big one, as we had never seen a 16 seed beat a 1 seed before. But I don't know, this Kentucky Derby this past weekend, that might be my number 1.
And Shannon, we have a chance this year for one of the greatest upsets in the history of sports. I believe, and off the top of my head, it's around September 3rd at DKR, the UTSA Roadrunners, led by our buddy Coach Jeff Traylor, taking on the mighty Texas Longhorns. Nobody would expect the UTSA Roadrunners to have a chance. And after listening to Sark last night, I believe UTSA has less of a chance, hearing about that offensive line that they're building at Texas. But that that's going to be so much fun, Shannon, because we talk with Coach Jeff Traylor every week during the football season and sometimes beyond. Andy, we know Andy Everett, voice of UTSA athletics, so well. He contributes so much to this show as well. So I mean, just going to be a fun clash of cultures. And again, on paper, it should be Longhorns by, I off the top of my head, the spread is probably going to be like 15.5, something like that, maybe more, but you never know. Those Roadrunners were pretty amazing last year. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd say the game plan needs to be come out swinging in the third quarter, because historically Texas third quarter just not a good look. Even in the McCoy days, it was always like a fourth quarter comeback when they were ever behind. The third quarter just not great. But I'm excited for that game, for Andy to come up and see all things Bevo Boulevard and beyond. Hopefully you'll be able to come up and catch that game. It's going to be awkward talking to Jeff Traylor that week, though.
Yeah, but he's so funny though. He'll have fun with you. I mean, we already alluded to it with him. I think last time we talked to him, and he said he'll allow you for one weekend to root against the UTSA Roadrunners. All right, lots to cover, and we'll get into these. Michelle Beadle's allegations about LeBron James, something that he did, according to Michelle, that was way uncool. And I'm a LeBron defender. It's not a lot of people like to hate LeBron. I think he's got a lot of virtues, but we'll talk about it. We got a story about him that is troubling. And Michelle Beadle, we love her here. We have no reason to believe she would make something like that up. So we'll get into that. But before we get into something a little distasteful, and it's not as bad if you're just listening, it's not as LeBron didn't do anything physical to Michelle Beadle. It's something else. We'll tell you. Just I don't want anybody going, "Oh my God, what did LeBron do?" Well, what he did was uncool. So we'll get into that in a moment. Before that, though, let's do something that is feel good. We call it the high five play of the day. It is appropriately sponsored by High Five. 2 locations in the Austin area. Everything you're looking for. You step into a High Five. Big screen TVs everywhere. Watch the sports that you love, NBA playoffs, NFL schedule drop on Thursday at 7. you name it. It's a Major League Baseball. Astros and Verlander going against Correa and the Twins tonight. That'll be on a big screen TV there tonight. Great food, great drinks, food specials, drink specials, all kinds of games you can play. Axe throwing, bowling, laser tag, zombie dodgeball, and so many more. It's going on. 2 locations. Get in there. High five in the Austin area. Shannon, I think we got a pretty cool high five going on this morning. Who are we handing it out to?
Yeah, today's high five goes to someone the Spurs organization and fans know very well. One, Miss Becky Hammon, who, of course, is now the head coach of the Las Vegas Aces. The WNBA season kicked off over the weekend. They played their first game on Friday. It was an away game where the Aces were playing the Mercury. They won 106-88, after which the team gave Becky Hammon a champagne shower in the locker room. And then on Sunday, they were at home for their very first game against the Storm, where they won yet again 85-74. And in attendance at that game, DeJounte Murray in attendance to support his former coach and to cheer her on during her first home game as the head coach of the Las Vegas Aces. They start their season 2-0. They've got a game tonight at 6 against the Mystics. An incredible start to what's already been an incredible career. The Aces, a team to look out for this year in the WNBA.
I am so happy for Becky Hammon. She's so cool. She's so talented. And I still think she could be the next head coach of the San Antonio Spurs whenever Pop steps aside. I still think that if an offer came and she probably has something in her contract that says if the NBA comes calling, I have the freedom to go. And Shannon, I am so impressed by DeJounte Murray showing up to watch Becky Hammon coach. My goodness, that is so cool. And that just shows such a level of respect. Because I often wonder, it's still for young men who have played basketball their whole lives and are used to only other men coaching them probably for their playing career dating back to middle school, high school, college, one and dones, and even the pros. You wonder, while obviously, it's Coach Greg Popovich's team, and he chose to have Becky Hammon as an assistant coach on that roster. You wonder if the players get it and if the players buy in. Clearly, DeJounte Murray, now the leader of the San Antonio Spurs, for him to make the trip, to be a face in the crowd, to show Becky Hammon he's there for her. I love it. And I even think, Shannon, the narrative of if we still believe Becky Hammon would be a leading candidate to be the next Spurs head coach whenever Greg Popovich steps aside, a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, whenever. I think the fact that the leader of that team, DeJounte Murray, is still very much aligned with Becky Hammon suggests he would welcome her back. I think it's a cool story on so many levels.
Yeah, and he's a guy that fans of the Spurs can be proud of. I mean, obviously the game in Vegas, so he had to pick up and get himself out there, and on a weekend when it seemed like everyone else was either in Kentucky or Miami for either the Derby or F1. I mean, that's where LeBron was hanging out. He was in the club in Miami, or even, he just came off his regular season, maybe spending time at home, relaxing, or even on a tropical vacation somewhere, which so many guys tend to go do once their season is over. So just the effort alone, and then for him to be up close, it's not like he went to sit in a suite. It's not like he, was hidden away and there to support in silence. I mean, he made his face known, and it's been great. I've seen the Las Vegas Aces Twitter page. Doc Rivers was at the game sitting courtside as well. I think WNBA, especially with the Brittany Griner story, is getting a lot more national and even international attention, and the media is covering them more. And, if small silver lining of the situation with Brittany Griner, and they've obviously got her initials and number on the court. And so all of this combined, I think is, helping to grow that league, and then also spread the awareness that we've still got to get Brittany Griner home.
I'm so glad you bring up Brittany Griner, because we don't talk about her nearly enough, and it's a travesty. If it were any other major American sport or league, if it were the NBA or Major League Baseball or the NFL or the National Hockey League or MLS soccer, and one of their top 5 players was being held against her will in Russia while Russia is at war with and bombing and committing atrocities against the Ukrainian people, it would be top of the news cycle, top story, round the clock for days and weeks and months, and it is not. And I appreciate your bringing up Brittany Griner because we need to keep talking about her. Jeremy, just a quick, and we will talk about this LeBron Michelle Beadle story just after the top of the hour. We'll walk you through it and react to it. But am I insane? And don't go ahead and answer that question, Jeremy. Am I insane to think that Becky Hammon would still be one of the top candidates to be the next Spurs head coach a year, 3 years, 5 years from now, or whenever Pop chooses to ride off into the sunset?
I think that's the only name right now. I mean, unless it would be an unknown name or a guy or a woman who's at a lower position in the organization right now than Becky Hammon just was when she left. That would be the only option other than Becky Hammon. She is the name as far as I'm concerned. And let's give her all our support in Las Vegas for now. But obviously, I think a lot of us would like to see her back in San Antonio at some point.
And you think about it, the one thing she didn't have on her resume was head coaching experience. And she's now doing that, and she's doing it very, very successfully. It's an early, small sample size, but she is really, really impressing early. And I agree with both of you. This is a time to pay more attention to the WNBA and pay attention to Becky Hammon and this Las Vegas Aces basketball team. And as Jeremy said, as Spurs fans, let's get into them. Let's follow them. Let's get excited. Coming up, Shannon has been paying close attention to it. I want to especially get her opinion as she walks us through a story involving allegations from broadcaster and now Spurs broadcaster Michelle Beadle about something that LeBron James did that's not cool and not pretty. And we'll tell you what that is, and we'll react with you coming right up. Shannon Salty Shakedown coming up in the next hour as well. Don't go anywhere. We're with you till 9. Thanks for listening to the Chris Duel Show. Woo! Very good, Amber. Miracle on Ice upset. James Rippey, both of those are big. Warriors over the Mavericks, an 8 versus a 1. Grizzlies beating the Spurs. I remember that well. Manu injured in one of the first 2 games at home. Wow. How do you remember Buster Douglas beating Mike Tyson? That was way before your time. Louisa says Becky's biggest flaw was that she's never been a head coach. So I think Pop encouraged her to do that so he can have her come back and coach the Spurs. I love it. I think that's very, very plausible. Jorge says the Mavs can beat the Suns, just need to win an away game. Yeah, that series is all of a sudden a very, very good series. Tracy Bogert with a link says Brett Favre is a complete douchebag. The money he took when he never worked for, and made the speech that was supposed to go to money that came out of a welfare fund. The people that gave it to him are guilty of a crime, as is Favre. And there's a link there. I have heard that story. There is a link there if you want to look at it. Yeah, Hector Gomez saying that the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar character, and there's a great scene at the end of the finale with Kareem and Spencer Haywood, who's got a drug problem. Hector Gomez says, from what I've read, the Kareem character as portrayed was fairly accurate, serious, and thoughtful. I would agree with that. There, John, that's a good one. The undefeated New England Patriots losing that Super Bowl to the Giants. Jorge, I don't know. This could be his year. Now, granted, he's like 36 or 37 now. If he doesn't do it this year, his chances diminish. But, right now you've got the Warriors and the Mavericks and whoever comes out of the East standing in his way. But I think Chris Paul has been very impressive.
Schedule your free consultation at the LASIK Vision Institute. The LASIK Vision Institute is offering 20% off LASIK in May. That can be over $900 off when treating both eyes, plus guaranteed financing. So take advantage of this great deal and visit LASIK.com. That's LASIK.com. Amazing vision, amazing price. Cost of LASIK compared to a daily $4.50 latte for 3 years. Let's mention this promotion will be treated in May of 2022 to qualify. 20% off standard price procedure. Not be combined with any other offers. Go to LASIK.com for details.
Jason, I think, and we can Google that, I think Pat Riley made that up to fire up Magic in that final moment of that Game 6. I will Google that right now, though. That's a great question. Let's see. That's a tremendous. When I saw that, I thought, I know what's going on there. So, Bird, Magic, rookie. Bird, Magic, Rookie of the Year voting. No, it is accurate. No. Wait. No, that was a recap of the of Winning Time. The first thing that came up was a link, and that was a recap of Winning Time. Now according to Basketball Reference, it was 63-3. Wow. That I did not believe that. Here it is. John, I think those fans should be banned for life. A 1-year ban, or I think, after a year or 5 years, there should be a hearing. I think the Mavericks should bring them in and interview them and have them show cause as to why they should ever be admitted back into. We may get into that. We may get into that on the show this morning, because I think you've got to, when fans get physical, when you throw something on a court or at a player, or in this case, when you abuse Chris Paul's mother and wife and family, and you've touched them physically, Not cool and darn near unforgivable, I would think.
Hey, Sarah. The usual.
This is the last time I'm coming here for coffee.
I'm on a budget now. 1 second. Cold brew for Blake. It's Jake from State Farm. Sarah, don't give up what you love. State Farm has policy options to give you a surprisingly great rate.
Good. I need my iced oat milk latte with caramel and cinnamon on top.
Girl, me too. For surprisingly great rates, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or go to statefarm.com for a quote today.
When it comes to pellet grilling, the true heroes of the hopper savor the process as much as they savor the result. Those 100% hardwood pellets can be used on new pellet grill and add bold, smoky wood flavor.
Wes Perkins says, I want Becky Hammon as the next Spurs head coach. They should pull the trigger and hire her. That said, will it be Monty Williams or Bud or another pop tree person? See, right now, Wes, why would Monty Williams leave Phoenix? And why would Mike Budenholzer leave Milwaukee when you've got Giannis? Budenholzer has what Pop had, a dominant big man who is loyal to you and your small market. That's Budenholzer has Tim Duncan, essentially. And Monty Williams just, DeAndre Ayton. There's so much talent on that. So I don't know, even though they've got ties, I don't know why either of those guys would leave those positions. And now Ime is being successful in Boston. And again, I go back to this, and we're almost back. Edere Messina, who was, as you know, a prolific European League coach, was Pop's lead assistant for a number of years and was rumored to be the coach in waiting for the Spurs. And then he left. And I theorized at the time, well, he knows Pop's going to stick around a while longer. And I think the same thing happened with Becky. Or, as Louisa suggested and others have, she wanted to get head coaching experience, and it actually benefits the Spurs. And again, if Pop was going to retire this season, wouldn't he have retired by now? I think so. I mean, I'm glad he hasn't. But so I think Becky saw the writing on the wall and maybe even advised by Pop, go do this. And it will only help you. So I think Becky Hammon and Edere Messina both learned, and I think Pop was straight with them, that he's going to stick around for a while. And I hope what we're seeing is that Pop and R.C. Buford and others want to win another championship, want to show, hey, man, we know what we're doing here. We're going to build a team. We're going to win another championship. And Pop's going to ride off into the sunset like David Robinson and John Elway did with a title. I would love that. And I don't think Pop is in this to just develop young talent and get a 6 or a 7 seed and end the playoff run early for the next couple of years. Anyway, Jason, I'm glad you brought that up, because when I saw that in winning time, I thought, all right, Riley's just making that up to fire up Magic. Here we come. Woo! Woo! I believe we're coming back. There we are. There's that music. Goes a little something like that. All right.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
We mute for our evil Facebook overlords. Not today, Zuckerberg!
Now, Chris Duel.
It is a Taco Tuesday. I got an early start on my tacos last night, as I mentioned earlier, at the Texas Fight Tour with Texas Longhorns head coach Steve Sarkisian, Texas Longhorns athletic director Chris Del Conte, women's basketball coach Vic Schaefer and volleyball coach Jarrett Elliott all on hand to pump up the crowd. A packed, sold-out venue at the Rustic in the Rim. We talked about that. We'll play you some Sark audio a little bit later in the show. Coming up, we will talk with Shannon and Jeremy about allegations being made by Michelle Beadle about something that LeBron James did a number of years ago. I kind of think it's interesting. I think if you're a LeBron hater, this will add fuel to that. If you're, I'm not a LeBron lover. I'm kind of a LeBron defender. I'm a LeBron appreciator. So I'm disappointed if this is true. So I do want to mention, though, and by the way, Chris Duel show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Jeremy Kolok is your Soundscape stylist, licking his wounds as his Memphis Grizzlies fell to the Golden State Warriors last night. We'll dive back into the NBA playoffs as well. But Shannon, before we dive into the Michelle Beadle, LeBron James story, I was thinking about this. You and I, and I'm assuming, Jeremy, have you seen the finale of Winning Time, Rise of the Lakers Dynasty? Thank you. Now, at the finale, episode 10, which we all just saw, Shannon, there's this big, it's the finals. It's Magic's rookie year. It's 1980. Lakers are in the NBA finals against Dr. J, Julius Erving, and the Philadelphia 76ers. And the big climax is what happens in that series. Is it, are we giving away spoilers? I mean, I know it happened in 1980, but when we talk about it a little bit later in the show, should we avoid discussing the outcome of that series and therefore the TV series?
No.
Por qué?
No. We know how many championships these teams have and where they got them from. Right. And that was how many years ago?
1980. Well, that's a lot of years.
A little late to the, yeah, we're not talking about the new Doctor Strange movie that came out last weekend. We're talking about something that happened 40 years ago. So I think we're okay.
Okay. I will say this, and we'll get into it a little bit later. It did not disappoint again. It just, man, and we talked about, Shannon mentioned yesterday on the show, there is a Donald Sterling adaptation dramatization in the works. Donald Sterling, the longtime owner of the LA Clippers, who things went really bad, and tape recordings of him saying horrible racist things. And here you own an NBA team, and the vast majority of NBA players, his employees, were African-American. It was just despicable. And we've brought up as well, man, if they ever do a Dallas Cowboys dramatization like this on HBO or Netflix or wherever, man, it's going to be just ripe with storylines, especially in the Jerry Jones, Jimmy Johnson, Michael Irvin era, Deion Sanders, the White House. There was so much going on. All right, Shannon, this is, as I mentioned, so many of our listeners don't like LeBron James. People think he's a diva. They think he's arrogant. They think he's overrated, which I think is ridiculous. He had a great year personally, although the Lakers kind of sucked, but statistically, LeBron was pretty darn good. Michelle Beadle, whom we love, a UTSA graduate, a San Antonio gal who then made it big in nationally televised sports talk, and is now, this past season, was back with Spurs television. She has a story to tell about LeBron James that does not put LeBron James in a very good light, very positive light. Walk us through this story, Shannon.
Yes, so Michelle Beadle, one of the more widely known women in sports, and has been on a number of platforms. You mentioned she was most recently with the Spurs. She did a show with Colin Cowherd back in the day. She was with ESPN, and that was during the time of LeBron's switch from the Cleveland Cavaliers to the Miami Heat. And in making his announcement, I think we all remember, I don't know how, it was like an hour show. It was called The Decision, right? Everyone was going to tune in and find out what LeBron would do. Would he be staying? Would he be going? And if he's going, where is it going to be? And to ultimately, we know what happened. He went to Miami. He won a couple championships. But when you think about what he did with that decision, and I mean, everyone pretty much bashed it, from people in the league, from other sports analysts outside. I mean, think about it. He hadn't won a championship yet. He was just still this guy who was really great, came right out of high school and was tearing up the league, but he really didn't have much to show for it otherwise until that, Miami Heat run. And so it was like, why are we doing this in the first place? And why with this guy? It was just kind of ridiculous. It was dragged out. And so she shared her opinion that so many others had. And LeBron personally didn't agree with it. I guess they followed each other on social media at the time because he later DM'd her about how he was upset of how she made fun of him. And he then took her comments and tried to get her fired from ESPN. And on this podcast she was recently on, she revealed that she wasn't the only one that LeBron was doing this to. Whenever he would be upset with someone's take, he would try and get them axed from their gigs so they could not, degrade him any longer or tell it like it is, really. And so she's not the only one who's had this instance with LeBron, but she, of course, making it a little bit more well known now. And I'm sure that from that moment on, she and LeBron have had differences of opinion because that decision now happened so many years ago. But it's not a great look for LeBron. Yes, he's a fantastic human being. He does so much for his community. He does so much for the community he lives in now and the community he grew up in, for kids in sports, for youth programs, for kids going to school. He's obviously a tremendous athlete. No one's knocking him for that. But it's just these moments like this where you're like, oh, dude, even Tom Brady doesn't do that.
Yeah, this is not a good look. And man, we can be sure. And LeBron James, as we know, still to this day pays very, very close attention to social media and the media.
Right.
And this is a big story now. Yeah.
Which is why when he goes into the finals, he has always done the 0 dark 30 thing. And it was really interesting that last season he didn't do that. And, obviously they didn't win a championship. I'm not saying like 0 dark 30 equals no championship. But you given this kind of background information, you kind of now see why to him, it is a huge distraction.
Yeah. Well, and it reminds me a little bit of Kevin Durant. We know Kevin Durant was thin-skinned with his burner accounts. When he would be criticized by just regular fans, he would go after them. But it's interesting. You look at these superstars, and Kevin Durant's one of them. Michael Jordan, obviously another. And we now know more than ever after the 10-part Last Dance documentary, when Michael Jordan has a grudge with you, and most in particular Isaiah Thomas, the grudge does not go away. And 30 years later, the grudge does not go away. It is kind of interesting, Shannon, and you mentioned Tom Brady doesn't do this, which so far we would agree with, but we do know Tom Brady's a big competitor. We heard the line that we believe was directed at the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan, where Tom Brady said something along the lines, are you going to keep that bleep quarterback when you could have me? Obviously Brady's very competitive. We know Roger Staubach was very competitive. I brought that up last week that he never got along with other quarterbacks in the quarterback room, whether it was Craig Morton or Clinton Longley. So I guess on a certain level, this level of angst and agitation that we saw manifest or are hearing the anecdote from Michelle Beadle manifested with LeBron James when, he DM'd her and, expressed his upset over what she had to say and then tried to use that conversation and get her fired from ESPN. That's ugly, but again, it's part of the story of LeBron, just as there's parts of the stories of Kevin Durant and Michael Jordan and others. And, but I must tell you, and I'm a guy who I think for good reason defended LeBron James and has defended LeBron James a lot on the radio over the years, but I can't defend this. This is not cool.
Well, a couple of things. One, this happened probably about 10 years ago now. Do you think he's still
now.
that same person who's still doing that, or do you think that was a LeBron who, again, hadn't won a championship yet, and so felt like he was getting maybe the raw end of the deal, which was obviously part of why he went to Miami. He wanted to win championships and felt like Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade could assist him in that. But also, I think of Jerry Jones and all. We always say for him, any press is good press, no matter what it's about. And I don't know that LeBron James has that same sentiment, right? It's either praise or you are against me. And I don't want people vocally against me. But ultimately, like you said, it's all part of LeBron and his story. And his part of what has made him so popular is because, people either love him or you hate him.
Yeah, we're getting a comment on the live video feed from Douglas McCoy, who says, I believe a lot of athletes share that trait. See Phil Mickelson. And Shannon, and we'll get Jeremy's thoughts on this as well here in a sec. You asked me, do I think LeBron is still that way? And I'm trying to think, I know the Spurs 2 series against the Miami Heat were 2013 and 2014. And I know before that, the Heat had won at least one or had gone to a couple. They didn't win their first finals. They went to it. So this had to have been at least 2015, no, at least 2011 or 2010. So this is 2022. So this is like at least 12 years ago. I would hope, and I just know in my experience, we grow in life. I look at things I did in my 20s and in my 30s and even just 10 years ago. And I go, I can't believe I really did that. So I think we grow over time and hopefully we become better human beings. And I got a feeling, LeBron James, as his children grow and become adults, and as his empire grows and he has more responsibilities and more employees, and as he puts more kids through college, I just think LeBron becomes a better man and hopefully, can let things slide a little bit. Jeremy Kolok, you are a huge basketball and sports fan, and obviously LeBron James, an icon. And for anybody just tuning in and didn't hear the beginning of the story that Shannon told, San Antonio's very own Michelle Beadle, after criticizing LeBron James, the decision special he did with Jim Gray back in the day to reveal he was leaving the Cleveland Cavaliers for the Miami Heat. She criticized it. She gave her opinion, which is what she was paid to do. LeBron was unhappy. LeBron direct messaged her, got into like a verbal spat with her, and then sent her employer, ESPN, the text of that private conversation and tried to get her fired, according to Michelle Beadle on a podcast. Jeremy, your thoughts on this, and what does this do for the legacy of LeBron James?
Well, certainly you never want to see something like this happen to a fellow Texan, a fellow San Antonio native in Michelle Beadle. So that's the first point. It's unfortunate if this went down as described, obviously. I thought about Shannon's question because I do think that LeBron has done a lot of growing up over the past decade or so since the decision and since around the timeline of this Michelle Beadle incident. And I think him, not even as much as getting those first 2 titles in Miami, helped as much as getting that first title in Cleveland when he went back. It felt like, obviously, I don't know LeBron, but it felt like there was like a shift in his mindset there where he became secure in himself and in his career, less insecure and less hypersensitive to what everybody thought about his decisions and obviously his play on the court. And I do feel like he's done a lot of growing since then. And like I said, I feel like that getting that win in Cleveland was it lifted a huge mental block for him where he finally believed himself that I am one of the best players of all time. I'm right there with Jordan. And really, I don't care what anybody else says. And something interesting that I wanted to bring up, Chris and Shannon, is that I have always noted and been impressed and thought that it was one of the most impressive factors of LeBron's career is that, Skip Bayless.
Oh, yeah.
Hater,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Skip Bayless, probably the most notorious LeBron hater on the planet, probably of all time, to be honest. That's what he does, that he wakes up and he dislikes LeBron. I think it's because he's a Jordan homer, but that's his thing. And in LeBron's entire career, from day one until today, LeBron has not once even acknowledged the existence of Skip Bayless. Never said his name, never even ever acknowledge that that man exists. I mean, let alone cover sports. So I just think that's interesting that this got out. I feel like LeBron tries to do things in silence when he tries to make, things happen. And it makes me wonder if not only if he's ever done this other times with Skip Bayless or other names we might know, but how often do you think this goes on in sports in general with other athletes with the same power that he might have?
You bring up a lot of great points, and especially, and the Skip Bayless thing is beautiful. And Skip Bayless has an ego, and I find Skip Bayless very entertaining. I think he knows what he's doing, and that's why he's been so successful. Skip Bayless knows how to push buttons and move the needle and go viral, and and that's who he is. He's like an entertainer. It's like Barnum and Bailey's circus with Skip Bayless. He will say outrageous things. He'll hurl grenades, and he knows people are going to watch and get outraged and talk about it and say they hate him and all that. But Shannon, something Jeremy brought up, and this is what won me back to LeBron James. At the time, I also didn't like the decision. I didn't like the production of it with Jim Gray. I thought it was an hour-long thing where he's sitting down one-on-one with reporter Jim Gray. It was the height of arrogance. It took an hour. So first they're talking about his career and all of his accomplishments and his family and what's going into the decision and what kind of a man he is. And we sat there for an hour, and at the very end, I'm taking my talents to South Beach. And it was just... I turned on him there, and I said, all right, don't like him. That's uncool. And then he goes to Miami and gets on stage with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. And he goes, how many championships are you going to win? Not one, not two, not three. And he went on and on and on. I won't say it all. But what Jeremy cites, and this is when he won me back, and I flipped on Tom Brady. I didn't used to like Tom Brady. Now I do. When he went home, into a franchise and a city that had never won a championship, that had been hell for all of their teams, the Cleveland Browns, the Cleveland Indians, and the Cleveland Cavaliers. And he is their son. He is the prodigal son. He left. He abandoned. Now, you could argue he was there for 7 years and they didn't give him the tools he needed to win a title. Sure. So he said, damn it, I'm leaving. I'm going to go where the championship possibility is. But when he said everything that Jeremy described, I'm going home, I'm going to bring a championship to Cleveland, that I said, okay, I am going to rethink you. That's so cool. I wish you the best. I hope you win a championship in Cleveland, as we know he did. So it's Shannon, everything we describe here, it's very multi-layered. There's some really, really good things about LeBron. He is a transcendent talent, one or two, certainly top 5 player in NBA history, along with Michael Jordan and others. But probably like all of us, there are some moments that are kind of ugly that he probably doesn't want to be remembered for.
Yeah, you mentioned him going back to Cleveland. That was your turning point. I mean, and he did that, by the way, without an hour-long TV special entitled The Decision. I think if anyone were to ever do something like that and people be okay with it, I think the only person that comes to mind would be a Tom Brady, because of how long he spent in New England, because of how many championships he won, because of all he's done for that city, and because he was the face of that franchise. I mean, that no one ever thought they'd see him in another uniform, and we didn't get one from him either. So LeBron, good on you for now having moved back to Cleveland and then to LA without doing another The Decision. Clearly, even though you did not appreciate the comments that came from the original one, you come to realize that they were maybe a little right, that it was ridiculous.
And one more thought, Shannon, you asked a few minutes ago, do you think LeBron has grown from this? Do you think he'd do it again? I wonder right now what his reaction is to this, because I mean, we're not the only one. We're not only talking about this because Michelle Beadle is from Texas and South Texas. Michelle Beadle's a big national figure, as is LeBron. So on sports talk shows across America this morning, radio and television, this is a topic of discussion. And you just got to wonder now. I mean, LeBron knows this. It's not pretty. It makes him, and I think especially, and this has nothing to do with the Me Too movement, Shannon, but in the aftermath of the Me Too movement, I think we're a little more sensitive about men who treat women badly. And there was no sexual harassment here. There was nothing like that. But here you're a very, very powerful man trying to get a woman fired who did her job, her job was deliver opinion, and she worked at one of the biggest sports networks in America, the 4-letter network. So you engaged her in a private conversation, you were angry, and then after that private conversation, you then tried to get her that's way uncool on any level. Would have been uncool if it was a guy. But I think it's even more uncool if you're one of the most powerful men in sports and one of the richest men in America. And Michelle Beadle, her job is opinion, and she's pretty darn good at it. And you tried to get her fired because you didn't like her opinion. That sucks. That's pretty ugly.
Yeah. He has that HBO show, The Shop, where so often, he's not on every episode, but he's on a couple every season. And he sits down with other athletes and actors and people in the entertainment industry, and they get real and they have real discussions. And the show widely praised, and I think rightfully so. But after this, and depending on his reaction, I think it's only right that he brings on a Michelle Beadle and has that discussion and clears the air, because it was so long ago. And LeBron seems to have shifted a little bit in mindset. And maybe, it's interesting if he even views it as something that he might need to apologize for. But I think that would be a great episode now that this has come to light.
I love it. That would be must-see TV. I mean, you should be a producer on his show. That would be through the roof. Here's this allegation against you. You behaved badly. We all know who Michelle Beadle is, and you guys are going to sit down face-to-face on The Shop and hash this out. Man, oh, man, oh, man. They should definitely do that. All right. There's still a lot more coming. We will talk about winning time, and we have decided that since you can Google the outcome of the 1980 NBA Finals, that we will give you some spoiler alerts when we get to it, but we will get to it. We'll play you some Coach Sark audio from last night's Texas Fight Tour at the Rustic at the Rim. He had some very, very interesting comments. We'll get into some of those coming up as well. But next, it's time for Shannon's Salty Shakedown, this day in sports history and sports birthdays. And we invite you to be a part of the show. A lot of people, a lot of great comments already on the live video feed. You can always dial us up, 800-707-9760. And we love the talkback feature on the free iHeartRadio app. Does LeBron James owe an apology to Michelle Beadle? One of the many things you can sound off on. That talkback button looks like a microphone. You press it, you leave a message, you send it, we get it immediately. We play it on the air. And we mock and humiliate you. No, we don't. We usually, we've had some really good ones lately. We give you props if it's a good message. Don't go anywhere. Little Michael Jackson on the way to break. Lots coming at you between now and 9 o'clock. It's the Chris Duel Show. John, that's an interesting story, and thank you for sending it. That's a couple of stories this morning. You might have to get a producer credit on today's show. Two Kentucky parents. Okay, there's a problem right there. Kentucky parents. Two Kentucky parents have come under fire on social media for running a marathon with their 6-year-old son. Cammie and Ben Crawford posted on Instagram that their son, Rainier ran the Flying Pig Marathon in Cincinnati earlier this month and mentioned that at mile 20, he was struggling physically and wanted to take a break and sit every 3 minutes. In the Instagram posts, the Crawfords and Rainier was crying and they were moving slow. So he was promised 2, and then it cuts out. I'll try to look for your comment on our live feed. I don't like how the software does that, but see if I can find it. He was crying. Promised 2 sleeves of Pringles chips if he kept going. I had to promise him another sleeve to get him and the family pick at the finish line. Today I paid him off. I'm not a parent, John, but that sounds a little abusive to force your kid to finish a marathon at age 6. I mean, that would be abusive if he were 17 and didn't want to finish it. We'll look into that, man. That's an interesting story. See how my ice is doing. Did somebody say ice? I think I'm going to grab some ice. Oh, I got to record a spot, so it changes everything.
You've got bugs. What's your move? A rattly can? Or a simple spritz? Bugs
All
for
right.
kids and pets? What about the ingredients you can't pronounce? Or essential oils? Bother the bugs, not your family. Zevo uses essential oils, which hack bugs' biological systems. So Zevo kills bugs.
Flexible.
Are used around people and pets when used as directed. Zevo, people friendly, bug deadly. Now at a store near you.
Kelly Cookbook is the one-stop shop for pricing, fixing, selling, and instant cash offer. Instant cash offer is exactly what it sounds like. An official offer to buy or trade your car. Just enter your VIN or license plate, answer a few questions about your car's history, and what kind of condition it's in. In minutes, you'll receive an offer to sell or trade your car that you can be sure is fair. Then choose a dealer to purchase your car and schedule a time to meet. For all of the it's, ABB.com.
All right, I got to record 5 30-second spots. I think I'm going to try to... I'm going to record a couple of spots here. Thank you. I may do that at the top because I got to check something out here. Okay, there we go. Okay, can I do this? Chris here. Are your feet, knees, or back sore? Shoes or boots hurting when you wear them? Plantar fasciitis, sciatica? Do what I did. Get into Optimal Feet in the Colonnade. They've got precision-made, personally fit orthotics wearable with any shoe. Through May 14th, get a free pair of shoes worth $150 with the purchase of 2 pair of lifetime warranty orthotics. Much less expensive alternatives. Great selection of shoes, including diabetic shoes. Website, OptimalFeetSA.com. Flexible savings and health savings accounts accepted. Optimal Feet in the Colonnade. All right, I had the date wrong. I got to do that again. Shoot. I'm going to have to do these at the top of the hour. June 18th. All right. Thank you, Amber. The check is in the mail. Thank you. AD Ibarra, talking about Michelle Beadle, says, once again, a great example that the pen is mightier than the sword. Unfortunately, in our neighboring country of Mexico, journalists are being killed for doing their job. Yeah, and in most countries, AD, and quite frankly, there's kind of the beginnings of a war on journalists and a war on the media in America. The media is being very vilified in general by many. And oftentimes they're people doing their jobs. So, but yeah, I mean, obviously, you think of Khashoggi, who was brutally murdered by the Saudi government, Mexico, and in a lot of Latin American countries, journalists are targeted and killed, and it's pretty ugly. And I got a bad feeling it's going to get uglier in this country, just given the rhetoric. See, Jeremy says, John, I have a sports writer buddy in Tulsa who keeps sending me pics of the course every morning. I'm pretty excited, all in on Tiger. Now, that's next week, right? I think you're telling me next week, John. We'll have to, if it's this weekend, we'll have to explore that closer as the weekend approaches. We bring Andy Everett on to talk golf, college football, and more on Thursdays. Here we come. Woo! 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 Jeremy telling me that I am muted on the live video feed. Jeremy, you are all over it, man. Each of the last 2 days, just
good work, Jeremy.
Putting out all kinds of technical fires and telling the idiot talk show host to turn on his microphone on the live video feed. Thank you for that, Jeremy. I appreciate it. And man, when I was muted just now, live video, man, I was telling some riveting things to you that I'm so sorry you missed them, because it was, man, I can't believe I said that on the radio, but here we go. All right, in a moment, Shannon Salty Shakedown. But first, how about some sports history, some sports birthdays, starting with this day in sports history. 1929, May 10th, 1929, the British Open at Muirfield. Walter Hagen wins his fourth Open title by 6 strokes over fellow American Johnny Farrell. Now, when I hear Walter Hagen, the great golfer, he was a character in one of my favorite movies ever, The Legend of Bagger Vance, originally a book written by Stephen Pressfield, who is one of my favorite authors ever. And some of Stephen Pressfield's greatest work is nonfiction, including The War of Art. San Antonio's own Bruce McGill in The Legend of Bagger Vance played Walter Hagen. Will Smith, our good old buddy Will Smith, played Bagger Vance in that movie and did not slap anybody, which is amazing. Matt Damon was in that movie, and Charlize Theron was in that movie as well. And as I recall, she was easy on the eyes, as she usually is. This day in 1946, The Boston Red Sox win their 15th straight game. They beat the New York Yankees 5-4. Joe DiMaggio hit a grand slam home run in that game. Oh, yeah, that was impressive. But, scoring with Marilyn Monroe, much more impressive in my book. On this day in 1967, Hank Aaron hit his only inside the park home run. It was off the Phillies pitcher Jim Bunning. And Jim Bunning went on to be a United States Senator later in his life. This day in 1973, it was the 27th NBA Championship Series, and the New York Knicks beat the Los Angeles Lakers 4-1. And Los Angeles Laker Jerry West may or may not have gone into an alcoholic rage, destroying the locker room after the game. May or may not. I don't know. I'm just a theory. And finally, on this day in 1993, one of my favorite athletes ever and an American treasure, Bill Walton, was inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. He set a record for the longest acceptance speech of 4 hours and 27 minutes, with lots of references to the Grateful Dead, psychedelics, the universe, quantum physics, and John Wooden and the UCLA Bruins. I don't think it was 4 hours and 27 minutes, but it was Bill Walton. If it was, I'd have been there for the whole speech, because I love Bill Walton, and he is an American treasure. Bill Walton. Love that man. That's your sports history. How about some sports birthdays? It's a big birthday for sportscasters. Born on this day in 1930, Pat Summerall, who, before he was a sportscaster, was a New York Giants football player and a kicker, made his roots in Dallas, as we all know, was paired with John Madden for a lot of his career. Before that, Tom Brookshire. Pat Summerall was born in Lake City, Florida. He passed away in 2013. Another sportscaster born on this day in 1955, Chris Berman of the Four Letter Network and NFL Highlights fame. Happy birthday to Chris Berman. And finally, born on this day in 1995, American swimmer Missy Franklin. Missy Franklin was pretty good. 5 Olympic gold medals in 2012. And over the years, 16 world records set by Missy Franklin while swimming. Missy Franklin was born in Pasadena, California. Thems be your sports birthdays and sports history. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, farm animals, pole assassins, and monkeys, here it is, your Taco Tuesday Salty Shakedown.
All right, Chris. Well, let's start in the world of the NFL. Danger Russell Wilson, Mr. Unlimited himself, has got unlimited funds, apparently, because he and Sierra are settling in very nicely to their new home in Colorado. They paid $25 million for their new home, which includes an indoor basketball court, a theater, and a swimming pool bigger than most people's homes at 2,590 feet. And yes, it is indoors because it is Colorado. I forgot Wilson, he was a baseball guy and was actually selected by the Rockies in the 2010 MLB draft. So he's finally getting to play for a Denver team. But the newest addition to their home, that kind of, to me, with all the cheesiness and the videos that we see out of Russell and often featuring his wife, just like this one that was posted yesterday, the two of them got a very cute looking little girl pup. It looks like an Australian Shepherd to me. Chris, I'd just like you to take a guess on what they named this puppy.
Okay, Sierra and Russell Wilson, they named him Pete Carroll. No, they named him Elway. Colorado.
You're on the right track there. They named her Bronco.
Whoa, I was close. Nice.
They are nice. All in, and I hope they don't turn around to regret the name one day. When you hear Sierra and Russell, the duo who Seattle, we got a deal, Mr. Unlimited. It only makes sense that they name their dog that, right?
Yes.
Keep the cheese factor going.
I can't believe the indoor pool bigger than most people's homes. It's good to be Russell Wilson these days.
Yeah, and by the way, the actual home, that puppy will have plenty of room to run as it grows up because the home itself over 20,000 square feet, and I believe it was also became the highest selling home in the area. All right, keeping it kind of with the NFL, there was an interesting story that came out yesterday about New Era Cap CEO Christopher Koch. New Era, Chris, we're very familiar with the hats. They do the official hats for the NFL, the NBA, and MLB. And I think we're more familiar with the NFL ones, right? Because they just had the draft. So they had all the new draft hats. They'll have the training camp hats. They'll have the new season hats, and they will continue to dish out designs throughout the rest of 2022. So it's huge. And they've been their hat partners since 2002, as well with the other leagues, the MLB and the NBA. But yesterday, CEO Christopher Koch arrested on first-degree reckless endangerment, which is a felony and could fine him behind bars for 7 years. In it, or the reason for it, was because he was with his girlfriend, and the ex of the girlfriend showed up, and they were both in their cars at the time. They got into a little bit of an argument. The ex got out of a car. Mr. Koch, still in his car, attempted to hit or run over the ex of the girlfriend. And although the ex jumped out of the way, he still got a little bit of a hand injury. And because of this attempt, he has now been charged and could find himself behind bars for 7 years. So, Chris, I'm asking you, put on your marketing hat, put on your, the face of the people hat. Like I said, he is the CEO of a company that since 2002, 20 years, is tied to the NFL, the NBA, and MLB, let alone just one of those is big enough. But does he need to step down immediately? Does the company need to get together and fire him? Because if they don't, they could very well lose one, if not all, of those sporting entities, which would be a huge loss for them.
Wow. And when I put on my marketing hat, it's going to be a New Era marketing hat that I put on. I mean, it's so amazing. People, their ex-girlfriend, their ex-spouse can just make them do crazy, crazy things. Better idea to just let live and move on. Apparently he couldn't do this, but yeah, I agree. I mean, that company makes so much money. We see that New Era logo, as you mentioned, across so many sports. If you're a shareholder in that company, he's got to go. And obviously, as CEO, he's made a ton of money. He'll be using a lot of that for his legal defense team in the next several months. But yeah, you got to. You lost your mind. And again, I mean, look at what OJ did once. I mean, your ex can make you do stupid and sometimes homicidal things, but this dude has got to go.
And it's not even his ex; it's his current girlfriend's ex.
Okay.
See, you won, right? You're dating the girl. You're already winning.
I get it. Okay.
But we talked about, Papa John, the OG Papa John yesterday, and we obviously know what happened with him. His whole scandal. He tried to hold on. He tried to make things right and try to switch things around, change perception, and ultimately the NFL is now with Pizza Hut. So if this New Era cap wants to hold on to the NFL, which is probably of the three the biggest, which is crazy to say because you think of the MLB baseball hats. They kind of wear them during the game. And the NBA, they're going to have to make moves quickly, more quickly than Mr. Christopher Koch, who failed to hit this guy with his car, but still getting the charge for it. All right, finally today, we talked about the Mavericks and Suns game the other night when some Mavs fans unwantingly touched the family of Chris Paul, his mother and his wife. And that investigation has concluded by those involved with the Mavericks and the American Airlines Center. I will read the statement for you now, Chris. American Airlines Center and Dallas Mavericks security and executives have concluded the investigation into the incident involving the Paul family. 2 unruly fans attempted to give unwanted hugs and have conversations with members of the Paul family on the public concourse of American Airlines Center. AAC security responded immediately once notified by the family, and the fans were swiftly ejected from the game. The fans involved in the incident will not be allowed to return to the arena until 2023. Unwanted hugs, Chris, get a ban from the American Airlines Center. Now it's only through the rest of this year, so they will be allowed back, which means they I guess could at some point come in contact with the Paul family again. But I just found this interesting that the phrase unwanted hugs, I get it. I'm not a big hugger. If I don't know you, please don't touch me. But unwanted hugs being tossed around now in the world of the NBA.
Well, especially post-COVID. And I know some people think COVID's over. Tell that to Steve Kerr, who got COVID in the last 24 hours and could not coach last night in the Warriors-Grizzlies game. So, yeah, I'm the same way. If I know you and if the hug is mutual, then let's hug it out. But if it's an unwanted hug, and you as a human being should never give out an unwanted hug. Be sure that other person wants to touch you and wants you to be in their space. Otherwise, you're invading their space. And, I had heard the story, Shannon, and, that the Chris Paul family was in fear for their safety from these two people. If I were the Mavericks, it would be a 1-year suspension with a review at the end of the 1-year suspension. I'd want these people to come into the offices, speak with my executives, and explain to us why they should be admitted back into the American Airlines arena. And then I would have them sign documentation saying, if we ever misbehave like this again, we're never coming back. I'm all for second chances, and maybe people don't realize how out of line they are, and maybe they can learn and be better human beings. But I think this is a little lenient on the part of the Mavericks.
Yeah, the statement and even just using the phrase unwanted hugs feels a little light-handed, but we'll see. We haven't got a reaction yet from Chris Paul, so maybe we'll get one soon. But there it is, today's Salty Shakedown.
And I heard there was some NBA player, former NBA player, Shannon, on national sports talk radio yesterday, who I heard, we're talking about Chris Paul. Chris Paul was on the sideline saying to Maverick officials, hey, that's my mom.
Yes.
And that's my wife over there. Most people, if someone's touching your mom or touching your wife or your spouse and you're watching that, even if you're Chris Paul on the sideline, they're lucky Chris Paul didn't go all Malice in the Palace and fly into the stands. Yeah. And intervene. I think most people would intervene, and I think most of us would justify somebody intervening if your loved ones are being harassed and then physically touched by fans who were opposed to them.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, there would be a lot of guys that would just go all in, but it is Chris Paul, and we know his demeanor, and also he's still the president of the NBA Players Association, correct? So I think he's got a really good head on his shoulders, and I think he realizes, even though a lot of people may have agreed with him going after whoever was giving out these unwanted hugs, that he knew what consequences would be, and it would have just have made the situation worse. But you talk about that video where he's mouthing and you can see him and he does it over and over again. That's my mom. That's my mom. Well, where's the video of this happen? I want to see that.
Yes. Well, and as we said on the Jerry Jones crash, Shannon, and we did get video. Everybody's got a video camera, and there had to have been fans around there who knew, hey, that's Chris Paul's mom. That's Chris Paul's wife.
Arena feed, something.
Yeah, there's got to be video. There's especially public figures in a public event. I would agree. It'll be interesting to see if any of that video does drop. All right, coming up in the 8:00 hour, we will revisit the NBA playoffs. We will revisit the NBA past. The three of us have watched the final episode of Winning Time, Rise of the Lakers Dynasty on HBO and HBO Max. I think we all like the whole series and like the finale. We will talk about it. We'll react to it. Coach Sark, Steve Sarkisian in San Antonio last night, talking to the Texas Fight Tour. We'll bring you a little bit of that audio as well. NFL football, we're getting closer to schedule release. We'll talk NFL Tom Brady as well coming up. Lots and lots coming at you. Sports update at the top of the hour. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney, Jeremy Kolok making the show go with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Okay, I gotta record spots again.
Gotcha.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the note on the microphone. Okay, here we go. I'm going to mute myself for a moment. Hopefully won't forget to take myself out of mute in a bit. Back in a sec. I got to do 5 30-second spots. Woo! Woo! Okay. Edit. Select entire wave. Edit. Copy. File. Dean Stone, welcome in. All right, I'm going to try to bang out some R&R auto glass spots. See if I can do this real quick. These are 30 seconds each. All right. Chris here for R&R Auto Glass. Nobody does it better. They can replace any piece of glass on your vehicle, window regulators, camera calibration, all with a lifetime warranty and customer service through the roof. They've even got a mobile service. They can come to you if that's what you want. UTSA senior and military discount. Speaking of discount, ask them about the Duel deal. Save even more money off the already low price. It's all at the website. rnrautoglass.com. Check it out and get out there. R&R Auto Glass. Got it. Two more. They are simply the best. R&R Auto Glass. It's where I take my vehicle. They can replace any piece of glass on your vehicle, window regulators, camera calibration, all with a lifetime warranty and customer service through the roof. They've even got a mobile service. They can come to you if that's what you need. UTSA senior and military discount. Speaking of discount, ask them about the Duel deal. Save even more money off the already low price. All the info's at the website. Go check it out. rnrautoglass.com. They are the best. R&R Auto Glass. Okay, I got one more. Nobody does it better than R&R Auto Glass. It's where I take my vehicle. They can replace any piece of glass on your vehicle, window regulators, camera calibration, all with a lifetime warranty and customer service through the roof. They've even got a mobile service. They can come to you if that's what you need. UTSA senior and military discount. Be sure to ask them about the Duel deal. Save even more money off the already low pricing. All the info is at the website. Go check it out. rnrautoglass.com. Then get your vehicle in there. R&R Auto Glass. All right. Jeremy, do you have that Sark audio? Okay, we might go to that here. Oh, and we'll go to talkback first if you've got it. Beautiful. Here we come. Try to turn my microphones on this time.
Now, Chris Duel.
It is Taco Tuesday, May 10th. Lots of NBA action last night and tonight. Houston Astros, longest winning streak in Major League Baseball. They were off yesterday, but they will be in Minneapolis tonight, 6:40 first pitch to take on the Minnesota Twins. Justin Verlander on the mound for the Astros. Hopefully they will keep a good thing going there. Lots to talk about from the NBA playoffs. We got news in the National Football League affecting the NFL schedules, which, by the way, will be released Thursday night, 7 o'clock in the Central Time Zone. There will be a special on the NFL Network. It will be simulcast on Fox Sports 1 if you're like me and you don't have the NFL Network. So that's coming. We will get into that. We will talk about the finale of Winning Time, Rise of the Lakers Dynasty on HBO and HBO Max. Shannon, Jeremy, and I have seen it. Welcome in the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. And Shannon, we're going to play a talkback message that we got here in a moment. And again, if you're new to the show or if you're new to talkback, it's a cool new feature on the free iHeartRadio app. You listen to us on the iHeartRadio app via AM 1300 The Zone or Ticket 760. And at the bottom of the screen, there's a microphone button. You press that, you leave a message, you press send, and we get it instantly. And we play it on the air. Earlier in the show, Shannon brought up a story where Michelle Beadle, longtime ESPN and national sports broadcaster, originally from San Antonio, went to UTSA. This past season, she worked on Spurs television, so she spent a lot of time back in San Antonio, which is cool. She tells a story from back when LeBron James did the Decision special with Jim Gray when he went from the Cleveland Cavaliers and revealed he was going to take his talents to South Beach and go to the Miami Heat. Apparently, Michelle Beadle was not she was paid to give her opinion on the four-letter network. She gave her opinion. It was negative about how that was presented. LeBron, according to Michelle Beadle on a podcast, said LeBron contacted her direct message on Twitter, on social media. They got into it, and then he took that conversation and tried to get her fired from her cool gig at the four-letter network. So that's the background. If you're just joining us, we got a talkback message which addresses Michelle Beadle and LeBron James.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Shannon. Just heard your story about Michelle and LeBron, but, LeBron complains all the time to refs, and somebody tries to coach the team, whatever team he's on. So trying to get someone fired is kind of like along those lines, maybe.
All right. So, Shannon, according to that message, and thank you for that, we should expect this behavior from LeBron James, a guy who complains all the time and tries to coach teams. And he has gotten coaches fired, Shannon. We can't say LeBron has never gotten anybody fired.
That's true. But we've seen more of, GM LeBron James in the later part of his career, whereas this was kind of just at the beginning of it really taking off to win those championships and take over in Miami. So, maybe he just kind of shifted, all of the feelings and stuff he had towards folks like Michelle Beadle. Maybe he's shifting that to his actual area of play in the basketball realm and in the organization rather than at media members.
So yeah, that's what we'll keep an eye on that story. But Shannon, I love your idea. LeBron has that HBO show called The Shop where people sit down and just talk real talk. These athletes and media members and musicians have been on that as well. If he would sit down with Michelle Beadle, because clearly she's not going to back down and cower to LeBron, and I think it would be an opportunity for LeBron to go, you know what? That was 2010. I was in a different place. I should have handled that differently. I think it'd be a great opportunity for LeBron to kind of rehabilitate his image a little bit in this regard.
And that show, they always have like 5-6 people on there. So I don't think it would be a one-on-one situation. I don't think LeBron would want it to be, because then that too much of the focus would be on him and something that, was kind of negative towards his reputation. But now I'm trying to think of other, like, either sports incidences with a reporter and an athlete, or even a reviewer of an album, or who else would join them kind of in that discussion of players and the media, and specifically media that is less reporter and journalist and more opinion based.
Yeah, and again, what's so weird about that story is Michelle Beadle is all about opinion. That's who she is. That's what she does. She was doing her job. And reportedly, and according to Michelle Beadle, LeBron James did not like that and would have rather seen her fired. All right, let's, as I mentioned, Shannon, Thursday night's going to be big. I'm excited. The NFL schedules are going to drop. Part of the intrigue is who's going to get opening night, last year it was the Thursday night NFL opener. The Dallas Cowboys were at Tampa Bay to take on the then defending Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady. And apparently Tom Brady is in the news, and things he has done kind of affecting this schedule that we're going to learn about on Thursday night.
Yeah, and we've been getting tea leaves of the schedule with, games that'll be played overseas, in Mexico, and specialty games like the the second Thursday night game. And we know kind of, Thanksgiving, we know that there will be someone playing at the Lions, someone at the Cowboys, and then there'll be another game on top of that. Unfortunately for Jeremy, there will be 11 games on Christmas Eve and a handful of games on December 25th. Broncos at Rams has been announced for Christmas Day, as well as 2 other games that have yet to be announced. We've gotten a couple of things that have come through the schedule, but plenty of games still left to be assigned. And what we learned is that Tom Brady, as we know, he retired after last season, and he was only retired for a month. But the schedule, because of all of the teams and all of the games, not to mention there's now that extra game, right, that we get each year, and the draft and how things end up at the end of the year with certain teams. The schedulers of the NFL broadcast networks have to sit down and they have to evaluate game by game. Once they get who the NFL is saying, these are the teams that they're going to play this year, how are you going to select where they go? Well, because Tom Brady is such a huge deal, they were already working on a schedule that involved a Tom Brady-less Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which probably, I would imagine, put them kind of back to where they were before, not necessarily out of relevancy, but, not really on a national stage as we've seen them as much in the past couple of years. And Tom Brady then unretires, and they had to start over from scratch with their schedule, and it's interesting. We know they're going to be playing in Germany against the Seahawks. They are one of the 2 teams selected to go play in Germany for the first time ever. I imagine the Bucs were not a part of that originally when Tom Brady was not on that team.
Yeah. And we wonder, and, we've been speculating, Shannon and Jeremy, we do know that the Buccaneers are coming to AT&T or Cowboys Stadium. I think it's AT&T Stadium now to play the Cowboys. One of the theories that we had, would the NFL do something crazy because it was so popular a year ago and repeat that opening matchup, Cowboys versus Buccaneers, only this time it would be in the Cowboys stadium. So it would be a little different, and it would almost seem fair a year later to, all right, let's play this on the other field. But then, as you mentioned, Shannon, you've got the Thanksgiving Day option. If it was Cowboys, Buccaneers,
that would be
and
huge.
Tom Brady on Thanksgiving, my gosh, Thanksgiving is such an event for people anyway. And I know my family, Shannon, all these years, I have always made sure that the Thanksgiving dinner is planned around the Cowboys game. We need to either be done by the Cowboys game, or we need to start late after the Cowboys game. It's such an event. It's such a big deal for Cowboys fans. If that marquee game was Cowboys, Buccaneers, and Tom Brady playing the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, that would be wild.
It would be huge. To start planning now, Chris, looks like Cowboys are slated in the 3:30 Central slot for that Thanksgiving Day game. I like it because it's huge, but also the Cowboys so often have ruined a Thanksgiving or two by being outperformed on that day, and I just don't know that I want Tom Brady to ruin it for me this year. But if I am a scheduler, if I am one of the 5 people working on the schedule with those 4,000 computers that are putting it all together, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I remember like two Thanksgivings ago when the Cowboys played the Buffalo Bills, and Cole Beasley, I think it was Cole Beasley's first year with Buffalo, and he has a big game, and the Bills won big. I mean, it wasn't even close.
I have Mitch's hat from that game, and it has the little Thanksgiving seal on the side. Hashtag never forget. What a great Thanksgiving. Thanks for the hat.
Yeah, that's exactly. Jeremy, if you could design any game either for opening day or for Thanksgiving or for one of the we talked with you don't like NFL games on Christmas, but they're going to come this year. Anything you would like to do to the NFL schedule if you had that power?
No, nothing in particular. I'm pretty much right with Shannon, where I want to see the Cowboys against anybody at any time, but I don't know how I feel about Tom Brady being the annual reason. Obviously, in my lifetime, I've had more Thanksgivings ruined by the Cowboys than not. I mean, it's a tradition at this point.
Wow.
I just don't know if I want that to be at the hands of old man Tom Brady. But hey, man, we'll play the games on our schedule, and we'll trot Dak Prescott out there like we do every year on that great holiday, and see what happens.
It always ruins my appetite when the other team wins and they're sitting there afterwards eating the turkey leg.
Oh, I hate that.
On national, I'm like, I'm not hungry anymore. I don't want this.
Yeah.
Get me some ham.
All right, let's see. We haven't talked about this yet, but there was a story, Shannon, finally, and there's been movement on this the last couple of weeks. We mentioned last week that the Pac-12 commissioner and the SEC commissioner went to Washington, D.C. to meet with senators to see if there could be some kind of federal legislation on NIL, name, image, and likeness. Obviously, that the machinery of politics and legislation moves slowly, typically. But now official memos being sent out to Division I schools with some guidelines as the NCAA is trying to crack down on how boosters handle name, image, and likeness. What do you think of this?
Yeah, essentially, boosters cannot talk directly to family members or the player, who is kind of in the process of looking for where to play. They can't, try and sway them essentially in recruiting to give them guarantees of any sort of, if you come here, we will sign you, we will give you this, that, and the other. Nothing like that, kind of incentivizing ahead of time. And the same goes for, saying if you come here and you are successful, if you score this many points, if you get this many minutes, you will get these incentives as well. That also goes for players who are already a part of a team or are part of a booster of which is paying for them. It's interesting because the boosters on the outside kind of seemed like the real pay for play kind of motives. And that's where a lot of the money is coming from for a lot of schools, and where a lot of schools are looking to their boosters now to say, hey, what can you help do? So, going to be more important now, I think, for schools to have their boosters focus on athletes that are already there, and by the success that they might have, then that might entice a future signee to go to that school rather than boosters being able to go directly or get into the DMs of an athlete. I don't know that this legislation will stop it. It would be awfully hard to. I think much like, players were kind of always getting paid in some places, it was just under the table. I think this is just the next level of what might go on under the table.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating if and when, and I think it'll be when. Because it's human nature. It's going to get out of control somewhere, if not a lot of places. It's going to be really fascinating when the NCAA cracks down on a university. And we all hope it's not our university. We Longhorns hope it's not the Texas Longhorns. Jeremy doesn't want it to happen at Oklahoma State. I don't want it to happen at USC. UTSA fans don't want it to happen at UTSA. But I got to believe it's inevitable. Human nature, human beings. Cross the line, cross the boundaries, do things beyond what they're supposed to do. And at some point, probably the NCAA is going to crack down on that. Jeremy Kolok has some breaking news involving the NFL and Tom Brady. My gosh, the Brady news just keeps on coming. Hit us up with some breaking news, Jeremy.
Well, this comes from Fox Sports NFL this morning. They say, we are pleased to announce that immediately following his playing career, 7-time Super Bowl champion Tom Brady will be joining us at Fox Sports as our lead NFL analyst.
Wow. That they got a replacement for Aikman. Tell you what, Troy, you're leaving us. We're going to get a hotter chick. You can walk out that door, Troy. We are going to we're not only getting a hotter chick, we are going to get the hottest chick on the face of this earth. I'm speaking metaphorically. Sports chick, Tom Brady. To me, this is a home run, but since it's football, Shannon, this is a 99-yard bomb touchdown pass on the first play of overtime to win the. Wow. Huge news.
It's huge. The Fox Sports goes on to say, over the course of this long-term agreement, Tom will not only call our biggest NFL games with Kevin Burkhardt, but will also serve as an ambassador for us, particularly with the respect to client and promotional initiatives. Tom Brady also shared this tweet announcing he's excited, but a lot of unfinished business on the field. Chris, we were just talking about the Cowboys, their Thanksgiving Day game slated for 3:30 p.m. this year. And they have yet to have an opponent announced it, but that game is going to be on Fox. Go ahead and book it there for Tom Brady. I'm just going to go ahead and say that that's who they're going to put in that slot. Now that this news is broke, Fox all year for Tom Brady.
My God, it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant on the part of Fox. I think it's brilliant on the part of Brady because it's the kind of a job where obviously he'll prep during the week, but this will enable him through the rest of the week to do whatever business ventures he wants to do after football, but still have a huge presence. He is the GOAT of the National Football League, and he will have a huge presence in football. As they mentioned, long-term deal. I just wonder, Shannon and Jeremy, and I don't have the Romo contract in front of me, but a lot of people think Romo set the market when he signed that analyst deal with CBS. You got to be paying Brady infinitely more than you're paying Romo. Just as an analyst, who do you, even though Romo's great, and right now Romo is my favorite football analyst, his passion, his knowledge, his humor, his self-deprecatingness, making words up on a Taco Tuesday. So I love Romo as a football analyst. But if I'm at that network and Brady goes, I want double what Romo's making, it's like, yes, sir. Let's talk to accounting. This has got to be a huge contract.
Yeah, Romo's deal worth up to $17.5 million a year over 10 years. So that would be the number that Tom Brady would have to outdo in order to beat, Tony Romo again, which he's been very good at throughout his career. So no question that he'll beat him once more as far as the check is concerned. What a huge, and it'll be interesting to see now that Fox has kind of made this announcement, if ESPN, who has, Monday Night Football, and they have that Peyton broadcast where they love to get Tom Brady on when they can, when he's not playing.
Mm-hmm.
If they'll continue to get him, or if he'll bother to go now that he's technically a competitor of the network.
Yeah, and as you know, Shannon and Jeremy as well. I mean, in our time in the media, one of the rules of media is you usually don't have your competition on the air with you if they're directly competing with you. So that's a fascinating dynamic that will go into effect right now. But Shannon, we said when Troy Aikman left Fox to go do Monday Night, we said, man, how are you going to replace Troy Aikman? Who's out there you could possibly, and we couldn't think of any because we didn't think about Brady. And then when Joe Buck left, it's like, how are you going to replace Joe Buck and Tom Brady? Now, Kevin Burkhardt and, Tom Brady now versus Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. Pretty much, if you have a competent other broadcaster there with Brady, I think you're going to do very, very well. So Fox is, back maybe on top of the mountain here again, even though Aikman is such a big 2,000-pound gorilla now on another network.
Well, and last we heard of Sean Payton, he was also closing in on a deal with Fox to be a studio analyst. So, they're certainly grabbing them where they can. And I think, with the giant shuffle that took place this year, it was a great move for Fox to go ahead and say, let's go get our guy right now and make sure we have him locked in for the future, because we don't know what other shuffling might go on. We don't know what other player might retire and might try and come take that spot. And we don't necessarily want to be like ESPN, where we're keeping, flipping around, trying new things each and every year, thinking that this is going to be the fix. We are saying this is our guy. So it'll be interesting to see who they have in that slot this year, and what happens to them once Tom Brady does come on board.
And one other thought as we go to break, and coming up, we'll hear from Steve Sarkisian, some of his comments last night in San Antonio, and we'll also talk about winning time, rise of the Lakers dynasty. But what strikes me as well, Shannon, and on that John Madden, that old Madden documentary, we saw how Fox built its sports broadcasting and its NFL broadcasting around John Madden, because John Madden was a superstar. This is kind of, granted, completely different personalities, but Brady is now the modern day John Madden. Fox is betting everything. Brady's the GOAT. Brady's the man. Brady's going to deliver the goods like nobody else can. And I think it's a pretty darn good bet on the behalf of Fox Sports that just broke. Thanks to Jeremy for finding and delivering that breaking story. And, of course, added detail there from Shannon. We'll talk more about that. We'll hear from Coach Sark of the Texas Longhorns, and we'll talk winning time, the finale, rise of the Lakers dynasty that has dropped. We've all seen it. We will react to that and more coming up on the Chris Duel Show. Little Tom Petty on the way out. All right. Yeah, Wally, my sound was off, but would like to get you back on the show as early as tomorrow. We've got 7:05 and 8:35 open. Out of those two, I prefer 7:05 because it's a longer segment, and we're up against it a little bit on 8:35. So if not, we'll try it later. Dean, sorry about the sound. Okay. All right. Yeah, and today or yesterday would have been a good day. We got Bill Schoening joins us Wednesdays at 8:05. What's going on here? Losing my mind. Which is not. I got to plug my phone in. Here we come. Nice.
We're back. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. By dialing.
If you got the nerve, shout for your just dessert. In the cloud.
The theme song from Winning Time, Rise of the Lakers Dynasty. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Shannon is telling me I can't unmute you on the live StreamYard because you apparently have to unmute yourself.
Am I here?
Like I was unable to do earlier, apparently. We will talk Winning Time, Rise of the Lakers Dynasty in a moment. We'll hear from Coach Sarkisian, Coach Sark of the Texas Longhorns. He spoke last night at the Texas Fight Tour at the Rustic, but just a couple more reactions to the breaking news that we learned moments ago, and we brought it to you in the previous segment. Fox Sports is hiring Tom Brady as their lead NFL analyst at the conclusion of whenever his career comes to an end as quarterback in the National Football League. Shannon, we've had a few more minutes to digest this. I continue to think it's a home run. I got to believe they are dancing in the executive office buildings at Fox Sports as we speak. They caught the big fish, and the big fish turns out to be a goat, and his name is Tom Brady.
It's huge, and I don't expect it to go this way, but I sent you guys this message as we went to break of, what if we haven't seen him do this before. What if he turns out to be, the Dallas version of now I've lost his name, but
Jason Witten.
Jason Witten. I mean, because that was horrible, and Jason was, he's well spoken. He was a great guy. Everyone loved him. But that just wasn't his fit. So I imagine Tom Brady will approach this the way he approaches everything football related, 110%, and working in the off season when no one else is watching, or sometimes when his social media team is around to watch, to get ready for this whenever it does occur, because it would be as huge as it is for them to get him. It would be catastrophic if it didn't work out because he's just not good at it.
I got it based on his social media. I got a feeling, he'll be just fine. I got a feeling. But wait, it's a great question. Jeremy, your thoughts? Tom Brady is. Do you agree with me and Shannon? I think you couldn't have gotten a bigger name. I think it's a home run. It's a touchdown pass. It's a buzzer beater. It's everything for Fox Sports.
Yeah, the first thing I'm gonna think of is to make it all about me and my Dallas Cowboys, obviously. And so I'm thinking, is Tom Brady going to be he's going to be broadcasting Cowboy games for the foreseeable future, obviously, once he retires and goes into this gig. He is our new Cowboys voice. He is the Troy Aikman. Obviously, he didn't play for the Cowboys,
Oh
but as a
gosh,
Cowboys
I
fan,
didn't even think about that.
yeah, it's gonna be Tom Brady. And also, Shannon, I'm glad you mentioned Sean Payton too, because there's a lot of rumors, there's a lot of chirping that Sean Tom Brady and Sean Payton were seen not just both at the F1 event in Miami this weekend, but they were seen together right before this news
And there's
comes
those
out.
Dolphin rumors. Brady might and Sean Payton might go to Miami before Brady decides to be a Fox Sports analyst. We will be all over this story. I did want to play a little bit of Coach Sark from last night, and then we'll talk a little winning time at the Texas Fight Tour. Coach Sark, Steve Sarkisian, along with women's basketball coach Vic Schaefer, volleyball coach Jarrett Elliott of the Longhorns, and of course, athletic director Chris Del Conte were there. Sark came out and made some general comments about the Longhorn athletic programs in general. I think the now and the future is very bright. Let's hear from Longhorns coach Steve Sarkisian.
Generally, this is what you do that first spring. You get out, there's introductory, you get to meet everybody, and we didn't get to do that. And so I know CDC thinks he's wearing me out doing these things, but I'm actually really enjoying this. I love the fact that I get to meet everybody. We got a whole tour set up, so the idea that we get to be here together, celebrate Longhorn athletics is really tremendous. You know, every day when I pull up to DKR, I think about the excellence we're surrounded by every single day. Not just by these two men and their programs, but look at what baseball's doing. Look at what Eddie Reese has done with swimming and diving. Look at what Chris Beard is going to do with the basketball program. It is every single sport. It is the best in the world at what they do, and then we have a standard to live up to. That's why you choose to come to the University of Texas. I could have stayed. I had a great job, man. My life was good. But it's the University of Texas. And if you're a really unique competitor, if you're a true competitor, and you strive to be the best at what we do every single day, you don't say no. You come to the University of Texas, and you take on the challenge. You recognize the expectations, and you roll up your sleeves and you go to work. And sooner or later, right, you start hitting those milestones along the journey to greatness. And that's what we're chasing every single day. That's what these two men are chasing every single day. That's what CDC's chasing every single day. That's why he's assembled the coaches that he has. That's why the student athletes that we have in every single program are national champions. They're Olympians. They're high draft picks. They're the best at what they do. But that's why you come here, is to be the best. And then it takes the hard work. It does take, overcoming hard and all the things everybody's talking about. That's what it takes. Ultimately, so that we all can be proud to put on the burnt orange and to throw the hook and horns up. That's why we do it. So it's exciting to be out here with you all. Looking forward to see what you got for me, Lowell. Thanks, buddy.
Coach Steve Sarkisian last night at the Rustic at the Rim, the Texas Fight Tour. And Shannon, as I hear him say, in his life, he had a really good gig at Alabama as the offensive coordinator, but he said, you don't say no to the University of Texas. I wonder if that'll be his message for Arch Manning. I mean, obviously, he's a motivator, just by listening to that. But hey, Arch Manning, you don't say no to the University of Texas. I didn't say no. You don't say no. Let's do this thing.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a great tool. I'm sure Texas has done anything and everything that they could think of thus far in recruiting Mr. Arch Manning. And there's, photos and videos of him working out in the spring with his high school team. He still looks fantastic. He'll be a huge topic of conversation coming into the fall. And then, I imagine he will be part of a December signing class with early signing. So, we're inching closer and closer to figuring out who he's actually going to end up picking and where he'll end up going, because it'll be huge no matter where he goes.
Absolutely, and we'll certainly keep an eye on that story. All right, speaking of story, Winning Time, Rise of the Lakers Dynasty on HBO and HBO Max. The finale of the 10 episodes dropped on Sunday night. Shannon and Jeremy and I watched it yesterday. Shannon, it delivered the goods. For a climax, the climax being the NBA Finals against the Philadelphia 76ers in Philadelphia for Game 6. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar injures his ankle. He can't go. So Magic Johnson, the rookie, says, hey, I'll play center. There was the intrigue of should they even do it? Kareem watching on television, Magic delivering the goods. They jumped out to an early lead against the Sixers. Sixers came back, tied at halftime. Jeannie Buss back at the Forum in Inglewood as the two ne'er-do-well sons of Dr. Jerry Buss, who looked kind of like idiots drinking beer and watching the game with their dad. It played out very, very well, I thought, and was a big, big finale.
Yeah, my kind of big takeaway from this, you kind of mentioned the story within the story, Jerry Buss and his children. He needed a new treasurer after the passing of his mother in order to kind of sign the paperwork that would allow him to, not be bankrupt any longer, because the Lakers and what they did helped him get out of that rut with the bank. And so he brought his sons to the basketball game, and Jeannie said, "Oh, someone needs to stay here to help Grandma." I mean, she's kind of the female side of, I feel like it's my responsibility to take care of everyone and everything, and this isn't going to get done unless I do it. So let me do it. But she thinks that she's going to get to be, part of this organization, and yet he wants it to be passed down to the sons. We ultimately find out at the end that the new treasurer is going to be Claire, who's kind of been his right-hand woman throughout his time becoming the owner. She's been there a while. She's really what helped bring them back into financial security. And so she's going to be a great job. There was an interesting moment between her and Jeannie on the court in the Forum that I still don't understand. Was that like a shot, or was that her trying to motivate Jeannie? Jeannie said that she wanted to be Claire. That was her goal. And Claire's response was, "You're going to be him, AKA your father." And I don't know if that was to get Jeannie to kind of change her ways and to go after more of what she wanted, rather than, kind of being at her father's beck and call to ultimately kind of turn into him after just being, his plus one the entire time. But that was really interesting. And then the MVP.
Yeah, I'll jump in for a second.
Okay,
I think what that was, you're going to run this team. She said, "I want to be you." And Claire is kind of the financial, the books, the number, the accountant person. And she said, "No, you're not going to be like, you're going to be him. You're going to be in charge. You're going to run this." And as we know now, what these characters didn't know at the time was, she's going to wind up owning this team.
Yeah.
That's how I interpreted it.
The other thing from this episode that really shocked me, and I don't know if how much public information that was or not, because Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was at home watching, but he did get a call that said, "You'd been voted MVP." But then we have the commissioner coming up to Magic Johnson in the hallway after the victory saying, "Kareem isn't here. And remember what we talked about, kind of the Star Wars analogy of you being, the good side and rising to the top and creating this storyline. Well, here, we'll give you the MVP award. You just need to accept it." And Magic is a little confused, thinking, "I'm accepting it on the behalf of Kareem. Like, I'll be happy to do that." And then ultimately he accepts it as the MVP award winner.
Mm-hmm.
Was that known back then, that it was really Kareem who won it? And then why do you think he ended up doing that? Was it because he was convinced by the commissioner, or it just felt very strange? But we see Kareem and Magic reunite at the end, and there doesn't seem to be any bad blood between the two.
It's a great question, and I'm going to have to do the research and look that up. But that is something that I did not know about. I want to, Jeremy, I know we're up against it a little bit, and I wish you had more time. But your thoughts on this finale, your thoughts on this series, Winning Time.
I thought it was phenomenal. I think the Adrian Brody playing Pat Riley is by far my favorite character, and I love seeing glimpses of the Godfather, as he seems to always know what to say, and he's like the level-headed one that knows how to motivate the team, as opposed to reading some Shakespeare, right? He's the one that knows to tell Magic Johnson in that moment in the game that how bad he lost the Rookie of the Year vote to Larry Bird because he knew he needed that extra push because he really didn't have anything left in the tank there. And also, something that I was reading about this, and maybe you can speak more on this, Chris. Wasn't and I know, first of all, the NBA was completely different at this time. The broadcasting was completely different. And I'm so glad that they have David Stern in it because, you know, a lot of people didn't like him when he was commissioner, but I think he saved the NBA right around this time period as far as marketing wise and with TV deals and whatnot. And I'm so glad that they showcase him and his idea to market Magic and Larry Bird as the face of the league rather than marketing the teams. RIP to David Stern. But wasn't the 1980 finals, Chris, wasn't that game 6 on tape delay in most of the country? Because they had that scene where everybody is watching at once, including Larry Bird. And wasn't it delayed that game in most of the country?
It's a great question. And I do remember NBA games that I watched in the late 70s were on tape delay. Specifically, I have to look that up. There's a good chance it was. And you're right. And David Stern, when he came in, changed things like that. So one of the many things I'm going to have to Google, including the MVP award, and was it on tape delay? But Shannon, Jeremy, and I recommend Winning Time, Rise of the Lakers Dynasty. All episodes now dropped on HBO Max. Shannon, outstanding as always. We'll do this again in 21 hours and have more Tom Brady news break, I imagine.
Oh, I'm sure. Looking forward to it.
Jeremy, great stuff as always. Your eyes were on the screen when that Tom Brady to Fox Sports news broke. So thanks for that. And thanks for reminding me to turn on my microphone.
Yes, sir. That's what I'm here for.
They say that's an important part of the job in radio is turning on the microphone. I'll try to remember that tomorrow. Thanks to all of you for being with us. Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, will join us tomorrow, among others. Have yourself a great Taco Tuesday. Go Tom Brady. Adios, amigos. Well, that was fun. All right, y'all. I got to edit some more spots. Have a great Taco Tuesday. We will see you in 21 hours. Thanks for being here.